This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Hello, everybody. I am Lizzie Robinson Jenkins, representing not only the Rosewood Foundation, but the personal testimonies and history of cherished friends and family. You are now watching the Queen Lizzie podcast. Today, we're talking with Carol Valesques Richardson. Welcome, Carol Valesques Richardson.
Thank you so much for having me today.
I am honored to have you today as my guest.
Wonderful.
And we have known each other for years.
Yes.
You are a member of my Rosewood board.
Yes.
You also directed, don't remember if you've forgotten, the Rosewood play?
I have not forgotten the Rosewood play, and we started the concept since in the 90s.
Yes.
That we were going to do this Rosewood play. So it's been just a joy working with you and being able to work on what we did and maybe looking forward to bigger things in the future.
Exactly, because when we started this play, I think we rehearsed one time.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started this, we knew it was not going to be perfect.
Right.
But I think it was you told me, well, Rosewood was not perfect.
That is correct. It wasn't going to be perfect. It's a painful story, but yet a history, but yet one that needs to be preserved, and using live theater as a way to put history out on the stage or on the screen I think is a wonderful thing for us to do.
It was. We had fun.
We did.
It was short. We got a standing ovation. We don't know if we deserve it.
Oh, no, we didn't deserve it. We definitely deserved it. We had an amazing cast.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it was a great performance. I think we had it at the hotel.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and it was just well attended.
Right. It was before dinner, before the program.
Right.
We put that play together, and hey, we did an excellent job, and people will remember it. And I am going to, in a few days, put it on our website so people can really see it.
Oh,
okay.
I think that would be wonderful. You know, it's a history that, you know, a lot of times we get these questions, why do we continue to do this? Well, you know, we need to. Rosewood is one of those stories, and particularly your family's history and what your family did to preserve that community and what you're currently doing now, Miss Lizzie, is so valuable to younger generations. So it's always going to be a story that we need to continue to tell.
I appreciate that, and your job is important too. So you are going to help us preserve it, and you're going to tell us today your position. What is your professional career?
Career? Well, professionally, my day job, I'm the Cultural Affairs Manager for the City of Gainesville.
Okay.
And I will tell you that is absolutely my dream job. Prior to working with the City of Gainesville, I had an arts background. I worked in theater. And then I worked in public arts administration, kind of like going to the state, arguing, advocating, whether it's a better word, for state funding for the arts. Been very passionate about how the arts is represented in the City of Gainesville and Alachua County.
Yes.
So I've served on the City of Gainesville's advisory board for many years, dating back to when Dr. Olympia Moore was here.
Yes.
And then I also work on the Alachua County Arts Council board. So I get the opportunity to work and to advocate for those organizations outside of the City of Gainesville to ensure. But on my day job, I get to really just work with the local communities. Our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs tries to do a lot to stay engaged in the community, give opportunities to our citizens to engage in the arts, to participate in the arts. And so it's just a wonderful place to be.
And many years you worked, I don't know if it was free, but you were not full-time, paid.
No, for many years,
Volunteer.
I actually, I would say 30 plus years when I first entered into the performing arts world. I started in the 1989s, and I started as a volunteer
Yes, I
at the
remember.
Crosstown Repertory Theater. We were just getting our foot wet, so to
Yes.
speak. We had moved into the Baird Center on South Main Street. So I always had two jobs.
Yes.
That day job, which I am so fortunate because I worked at the University of Florida and I was able to incorporate some of the love of what I enjoyed about the arts in my day job that paid the bills and took care of my daughter, and then worked in the arts pretty much like after work. That just materialized into a career all in itself.
I remember, and that's how we met. And
Yes.
I talked to you about Rosewood, and I said, "Well, one day I want you to produce the Rosewood play." And we
Yes.
did a lot of talking. As I said, you were on my board. I remember we went out to Rosewood, and
Yes.
we had to run. Did we not?
We did. Yeah, we took that trip. We took that trip, walking through the woods and, looking
Yes.
for artifacts.
Yes,
And I
yes.
remembered you had that television producer coming to town, I
Yes.
believe. Was it Ted Koppel? What was his name?
Yes, Ted Koppel.
Ted
Yes,
Ted
I
Koppel came to town, and I got a chance to kind of sit in the background and kind of watch that
Yes.
interview with you. And
in
then
Rosewood.
in Rosewood, and then we went to Governor Child's funeral.
Yes, we
Up in
did.
Tallahassee. Oh, we
you
did, Liz.
I had forgotten about that.
I haven't forgotten. How did we forget? I mean,
Okay.
we did so much, and
Yes,
we
we
always had
did.
this. Both of us
Yes,
had this
this
goal, a drive to keep the story.
Ambition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was determined that our version of our play was going to be bigger than John Singleton's movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was better because we did use local
Talent.
inexperienced actors and actresses.
Which is always sometimes better in some cases.
It was real.
Because it's real. It's authentic.
Yes,
You
you could feel it.
You could feel, absolutely, you could
Yes,
feel it. Yeah.
yes,
So it's
it-
been a long journey. But I'll have to go back and say the first time I met you was actually at your book talk. You had just released your book, and you were at, I believe, either Goring's bookstore or Book Gallery West. It was a bookstore.
Goring's.
Was
maybe.
it Goring's?
Yeah.
You were, and
This
I
has
saw it
been
in the
years
paper,
ago.
and I said, "Oh, they're having a book talk with this woman who's, doing a history of Alachua County, I believe."
Right.
And I
right,
came
right,
to your
right.
book talk, and then we started
Yeah.
speaking, and then you came to the theater. So
Yes, that
I've
was
always admired you and
2006.
admired your work.
Oh, tell me that again.
I've always admired you and admired your work.
Oh, yes. And I have
Yes.
admired you. I fell in love with you because of your interest.
Yes.
Many people are not interested in history, but
Right.
you are
Yes.
still today.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we still have a lot of work that we need to do.
Absolutely.
And together we can accomplish it.
Yeah.
We can accomplish it together.
I think so. I think so.
I just love working with you. And as I said, I have watched you. And you talked about Dr. Lemuel Moore at the
Right.
Thomas Center, was he?
Yes,
at
he
the
was.
time?
He was at the Thomas Center in the '90s. In the
Yes.
early 2000s, and then he
Yes.
retired, and then they got a new director. Steve Phillips became the
Right.
director. He was there for many, many years as well.
Yes,
But
yes.
my introduction to the Gainesville cultural scene and the support that I was able to get actually started with Dr. Moore.
Yes. I remember him very well because we had a blue and white connection. He was a Sigma, I was a Zeta, and we talked often. And he shared the same interests in Rosewood.
Right.
So my stepping stones, people that have been advocating for Rosewood in history a long time, I remember them, but I had forgotten about him.
Yeah.
And I tell you, another advocate was the superintendent of Alachua County Schools, Dr. Dan Boyd. Was it Boyd?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I made an appointment to sit and talk with him and told him that about my family's history. And he said, okay, we'll make an appointment and we'll have you to come in. I went in, sat down, took my book and shared with him the same book you were talking about, Alachua County, Florida. And it has Black history and from throughout the county. He said, well, I tell you what I need to do. I need to purchase a book for each school. And he did.
Oh.
Okay, and each school got a copy of that book. But these are people that were interested in Rosewood history without hesitation.
Right.
And they have become a part of my remembrance list or my honorary list.
Right.
And I'm working on an honorary list. And of course, I have him as an honorary member of my board.
And I don't know if you know it, but I was in CVS and I saw they have the books right by the counter. And those books are by various authors, but it's usually have a local connection. And that book, your book, is there.
Okay.
Right there. I know it's at the 13th Street CVS, so it may be at others as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, well, I know it's at Barnes & Noble.
Nice.
They have a new Barnes & Noble here for you all that do not know, not aware. It has moved to next to Best Buy out there.
Oh, okay. Near Archer, on Archer Road. Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
and it has my book. And when I walked in, I wasn't looking for it. I was looking for something else, another book, and I saw it. And I just pulled it off the shelf, and there were about 6 of them on the shelf. I took all of them off the shelf, and the lady was watching me, so I took them to the counter, and I autographed them.
Oh.
And gave them back to her to put back on the shelf. So when people walk in to purchase a book, my autograph is there. And so she set up a book signing for me. I don't know the date, but she ordered my newest book, and I'm going to have a book signing there.
Nice.
But I am very appreciative for Alachua County, for people like you that work while we are asleep, because I see you everywhere, all the time.
Yes.
I'm just sorry I can't support what you are doing, but in spirit I do.
Right.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you know I am busy, and I know
Exactly.
you are busy, so we are
Exactly.
working.
And I'll just say this, Lizzie. I know that you support it, and you always have an encouraging word or a positive statement, or even when you acknowledge it on social media, that's encouraging for us as well. But
Exactly.
we really do understand that you're busy. And yes, I'm everywhere, but because I look at it this way, we as Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural
Yes.
Affairs, we are so committed to our citizens.
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that we always, within our staff, we show up.
Okay.
We may not could be there every event or stay the entire time. So sometimes if you see me in 3 events in a day, I may have
Yes.
only been there about 10 or 15 minutes.
That's okay.
But I just want people to know that we committed, we care, and we want to show up.
And you're dropping crumbs.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we make connections. And
Exactly.
That way, when we're looking at how we program some of our
Yes.
programs within the city, the Cultural Affairs Department produces several events,
Okay.
several programs, but sometimes we partner with other agencies
Yes.
to be able to serve the community. So
Appreciate
being
it.
at these events helps us be able to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And people don't know. People think because my aunt was the Rosewood school teacher, she is from Levy County. She is in Alachua County. Okay.
Wow.
Native. Archer. Grew up in Archer on 40 acres. We still have that property. We are building a museum in her honor, Mahulda Gussie Brown Carrier Cultural Museum. We are at work as we speak. And she was very active after the Rosewood Massacre, after 25 years of running from the, what are they called? I call it conspirators. She came back, she returned to Gainesville, and she lived on 520 Court Street, okay, in Gainesville. And because we are going to stop for a break, we will open with this story.
I would love to hear that. And where Court Street was located.
Okay,
All right.
we'll talk about Court Street. Okay, it's about time for our first half. We are going to head to a quick break, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History. I am Florida and America's Black History, and you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
Welcome back to Queen Lizzie Podcast, brought to you weekly from the Steve Spurrier Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are here with Carol Valesques Richardson. The Queen Lizzie Podcast is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, live from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Special thanks to Greg Bradley, Allstate Insurance. And before the break, Carol, we were talking about my aunt being an Alachua County native, a resident of Archer all of her life. However, at age 6, she left home because she was so smart, so intelligent. We had a school in Archer called Blue Peter, okay? My mom said because she was so smart, she knew more than the teachers. But remember, back then in 1906, we did not have certified teachers. We had teachers that knew how to read,
Right.
okay, and mentor. So because she was so smart, her parents, my grandparents decided to, Charlie and Lizzie Brown decided to enroll her in a school in Gainesville. They had the best family friends that lived in Gainesville. Don't know if you've heard this name, but it's very important, and it should be in the Aquin Jones record someplace. Jesse and Esther Hams were good friends of my parents. So at age 6, Papa, my grandfather, and Grandma Lizzie, my grandmother, decided to move her to Gainesville. So Papa owned a buggy, not a horse and wagon, a buggy. I have the receipt that says Charlie Brown's buggy in whatever time it was, he paid $19 for it. It was a buggy, a real buggy that his wife sat in the back. And my little aunt, well, she wasn't little, she was 6 years old, sat in the front with her father. The reason they put my aunt on the back seat, because she was dark, very dark. Papa passed for white. And Papa needed to be able to stop on his way from Archer to Gainesville to water his horse. And the white man that didn't know he was not white allowed him that privilege to water his horse. And when I tell people that, they look at me just like you were looking at me, because he passed, which was, I don't know if it was good or bad, but it worked. Mm-hmm. And every week, every Sunday, they would bring her to Gainesville and leave her for the week, and they would come back on Fridays and pick her up. Mm-hmm. And she did this until she graduated in 1910. Mm-hmm. Got a job. She was 16 years old. She was hired as a teacher in Meredith, Levy County, Florida. Meredith is on the way to Rosewood, and she worked there until 1915. She met a young man that lived in Rosewood but would drive to or come over to Meredith to work on the sawmills. So she met her husband there. He encouraged her to relocate to Rosewood. They needed a teacher there. And of course she did, and she taught there from 1915 to 1923. Now back to Gainesville, where she lived like 4 or 5 different places, different addresses, because she was still running. The Archer mailmen, post office was not nice to her. She would get mail from everywhere, her cousins checking on her. It would go to the post office in Archer. The mail people would open her mail. We know they read it. and they would reseal it and send it to her in Gainesville. They knew her addresses, so she had a right to be afraid. And one of the places she lived was Court Street. And you were saying, well, I don't know where Court Street is. It's probably in the records. We need to find it. She also lived on Ardonna Street. And there are others. I will have to send you the letters. I have the letters. I have everything I talk about. I call it supporting evidence. I have it. Okay. I can send you the letters that they opened and resealed and sent to her. Because I think we need to leave something in her honor, because when she was living on 520 Court Street, okay, I have the county directory, Alachua County directory, and she is listed in there. And I told you she changed addresses. She also changed her name many times. And on this particular envelope, her husband's name was Aaron, which his name was Aaron Carrier, but in this document they have Carol, Aaron Carol. In parentheses they have her name. It wasn't Mahulda, they have listed it as Hulda Carol. But the address to that directory and the address on that envelope is the same. So on the envelope it says Mahulda, so I know it's her.
Well, that's all. It's fascinating that you remember all of this and you have it, which it speaks to me why it's so important that you have your museum and your cultural center that you're planning at Archer, so that you could be able to preserve this history. But it's interesting to me, having worked over at the A. Quinn Jones Museum and Cultural Center, and going through some of the archives when we're trying to tell history, particularly history that relates to the African American history and experience. It's interesting to me how names are changed.
Exactly.
So, where you may find a family today, last name was Hill, but then when you go back and look at the records, most of the time it's Hills.
Exactly.
Or something to that effect. But real quick, before you go on about your aunt, you said that she came to school in Gainesville. Was that school Union Academy?
She did stay a couple of years or a year there.
Okay.
Okay. And because of, back then, I don't know if she finished, but I do know she went to St. Augustine, Florida Memorial Industrial Institute.
Nice.
Okay, years ago. And she got a degree. Now, was it a degree or a certificate? I don't know. I don't have a copy of that. But I know she was able to teach. Okay, and as I said, her teachers in Archer, they were readers. They were not certified teachers.
Nice.
Okay, but now I'm more than sure she was certified with a certificate. I don't have a copy of it.
Well, I know Mr. Jones, A. Quinn Jones, he, in some of the archives that we have, he talked about a lot of the teachers from Lincoln, and what made it so special is that through his efforts, as well as other members of the community and the trustees, was able to get Lincoln to be accredited high school. So with that case, it would just only make sense to me if you wasn't accredited until, 1926? You can get a high school education as some type of certification to go teach, but you may have only gone to the 8th grade or the 9th grade.
Exactly. Wow. Yes, because my first, or an older school teacher in Archer, Nancy Henderson, she was a teacher, but she never got that degree. Okay, so back then it was different. But now I do have a state board document that says Mahulda Gus, and it's from the state of Florida. Mahulda Brown was the teacher in Rosewood. On the cover of that book that I have. So it pleases me, and it makes me feel really good. My mom saved everything and said, you better not touch it. I said, I'm going to throw it away. And she told me, and I will whip you, and I'm not going to say what she told me. If you touch it. I am so glad I did not throw it away.
So let me ask you, and I know this is your show, but I'm just going to go into this interview moral that I do.
Yes.
How many students was in her class that she taught?
My aunt. I do have I did my research. I went to Levy County School Board. They gave me a hard time. They didn't want to show me the records. I kept going and going and going. Eventually, it was approximately 2 pages I have with me. Nobody else has it. Approximately 40 kids. Okay, over a period, I don't know the years, but I believe it was like 1919. That's just my belief. Because you know what they did before they gave me that information? They erased the important information, but they left the kid's name and the parent's name. Okay, and I know the guardians. Some of them were not parents. They were guardian of the kids, which is very helpful, and it has helped me to confirm my beliefs. So approximately, I don't know. But I'm willing to share those names, not now, it's in my book.
Yes.
Of the kids that were there to prove that, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I know who they are. I know all of the family members and how we connected. And let me tell you all about one person I met before he passed. And he was always on my board, and he was always at every program, always purchase a table. Charles Chestnut. So one day Charles told me, he said, do you remember my grandmother? Her last name was Ware. Can't remember her first name right now. She lived in the big pink house. That was his grandmother. He said, oh, she's from Cedar Key. She was a Rosewood descendant. I said, what? He said, yeah. Sure enough, I found her. I found the Wares in Levy County.
Wow.
So I appreciate information like this. People don't know who they are. And there are many, many people that came on that train. They were not from Gainesville. They came to Levy County on a schooner. And the first time my mom told me a schooner, yeah, they came on a schooner. Most of them were enslaved. I said, now what in the world is a schooner? Okay. I think I may have asked her, and she wanted to say a boat dummy, but she didn't. But I didn't want to do this story. I told Mom it's too painful. I said, I can't do it. She said, somebody has to do it. So thanks to her, I met you.
Great. And I'm so happy that you are doing it. And again, for someone who works in historic preservation, I just think it's so important what you're doing.
Thank
you. At times it may get tired,
Yes.
and it seems like you're just repeating yourself, but it's always a new audience. And that's what I remember, sometimes when talking about Aquin Jones, it's like, you're talking about it, but it's always a new audience. And I'm always surprised when we have people come into the museum. They didn't even know, and they maybe have been lifelong residents of Gainesville. And they didn't know that it was a museum, and they didn't really know the impact that Mr. Jones had. So, or even bigger than Mr. Jones, just the Fifth Avenue district or the Pleasant Street and the people that lived there and what Fifth Avenue represents today. So I can just imagine, because even though you're talking about Rosewood,
Yes.
you're still bringing light to Cedar Key.
Yes.
And believe it or not, there are many people who don't know anything about Cedar Key.
Exactly.
And what that community is today versus
Yes.
what it was before.
Surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico.
Exactly. And recently I saw you with the family that, the descendants of the Wright family.
Yes,
And I
they
thought
were
that was
here.
extremely special.
They flew in from New York, okay? Called me one day and said, Mrs. Jenkins, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, said, yes, I am Jessica. I'm not giving her name, but I am Jessica. And she said, Mary Hall, John White Rife was my great-great aunt. I said, wow. I said, really? She said, yes. And she said, and I have written a page of our family history. Would you like a copy? I said, may I use it in my book? She said, of course. She sent me the book. She said, in fact, I have their pictures. She said a picture of John Wright and a picture of her aunt, and told me that I may use them in my book. And she flew down she and her sister flew down. No expense to Rosewood. They paid themselves. and we talk now. So Rosewood has really, I don't know if it has made me a better person. I don't think so. But a more interested person in history because John Wright. No, the sheriff, I met his family first, and they had the nerve to tell me, look, this is my history too. I said, welcome. And they have been friends with me for a long time. Okay, it's their history, and they claim it, and that makes me feel really good. I met the governor's great-granddaughter. She lives now in Ocala, next door to the governor that's still living, can't remember his name. She has invited me to her house so that I can meet the governor, okay, which is her neighbor. But what I want to do is get the governor on my show. Okay, can't remember his name, but I have done a lot. I am proud of everything I have done. And speaking of Aquin Jones, I would like for the audience to know that he was my principal when I graduated in 1957 at the New Lincoln. And I also, people of color, men, were very respectful of each other. I have a document where my grandfather was the secretary of a Masonic, and he has the names listed on this document that I still have. Is a 1921 document with a pen holding it together, not a staple, a straight pen, and it's a rusty straight pen that hold that document together, and they recognize everybody as Sir Thompson, Sir Aquin Jones. And I have a book, a little red book, and I opened it up and was going through it one day. It's a Masonic book, and it had the name in there, Aquin Jones. I would love to give it to you, but I can't. But I can make a copy.
And Liz, before we leave, I just want to kind of tell you, as we're talking about history, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the historic Thomas Center. It was built, it was a hotel at one point, and then Mr. Thomas turned it in. It was his private home, and then hotel. It was built in 1921, which was right around the same time as Rosewood. But he would often, Major Thomas would often have parties on the lawn, and people from Archer and Rosewood and Aquin Jones and other influential people would come to these parties. He was very, very supportive of the African American community.
Is that right?
That is. And so if you visit the Historic Thomas Center, we do have a history room, and we have some of the historic rooms that have been recreated into a parlor room, and we also have an art gallery there. So I would like to invite you and your listeners to come and check out the Historic Thomas Center and just see the similarities.
I'd love to.
And Major Thomas also was one of the instrumental forces for bringing the University of Florida to Gainesville, as well as creating the University Auditorium, because he was a music lover. And so University Auditorium is where they had all the concerts in that period. Okay. So please come on over and check out our history rooms.
I will do that, and I will probably bring you an artifact.
That would be amazing.
Yes, to leave with you. And yes, I was about to say something else that I don't remember, but is it anything else you would like to say?
Just want to just mention that, and then just invite you every Friday night. We have free Fridays at the Bo Diddley Plaza, and so we'd like to invite you and your listeners to the Bo Diddley to have some fun, and then check out our events on our City of Gainesville's Parks, Recreation, Cultural Affairs, as well as Aquin Jones's page.
Perfect, and I know what I was going to say. I can't close without telling you all who she is. She is the wife of
E. Stanley Richardson, who is the Alachua County Poet Laureate, and he's also a phenomenal actor.
He is, and he will be in our next play.
Yes, he will.
Tim Shamrock was in our play, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, and he is. Then together, they have a production that they do together. Timothy Shamrock McShane plays Captain John Brown, and Stan plays Frederick Douglass. So those are a piece that they do together, and it's amazing.
You've got to see it, because I don't know how they remember every line.
They're professional actors, Lizzie.
Yes, they are. So much unlike us.
Right. See, we have paper right here.
That's right. But I just wanted you to know, and I am going to have Stan on my show and Tim. I may bring them together.
Oh, they will be. You might need more time because they are talkers.
We'll do 2 shows.
2 shows with both of them.
Okay, I am continuously humbled, honored, and blessed to meet people daily and invite them to join in peace building, healing, and reconciliation through learning about the history of Rosewood. That will wrap up today's episode. I am Queen Lizzie. Until next time, this is my Rosewood story, and I'm sticking to it.